There are villages that do not die because of war, disaster, or famine. Sometimes, they slowly die because people lose hope. When hope disappears, everything else begins to fade with it. The land becomes empty, the rivers dry up, the trees stop growing, and even the hearts of people become cold and lifeless. This was the story of a small village hidden between dry mountains, a place where people no longer believed tomorrow could be better than today. For many years, the villagers lived surrounded by cracked earth and dying trees. The wind carried dust through the streets, and silence filled the air where laughter once existed. Every day, people complained about their difficult lives. They blamed the weather, blamed fate, and blamed the world for abandoning them. Slowly, they stopped trying to change anything because they believed nothing would ever change again. But among all those hopeless people, there was one young boy named Liam. Liam was not rich. He was not powerful or extraordinary. He lived in a small broken house and owned very little. Yet there was something different about him. While everyone else saw only death in the village, Liam still believed life could return. Somewhere deep inside his heart, he refused to believe that darkness could last forever. One evening, while walking near the edge of the village, Liam met an old traveler resting beneath a dead tree. The old man looked tired from years of wandering, but his eyes were calm and full of wisdom. Before leaving, he handed Liam a tiny bag filled with seeds. "These seeds are special," the old man said softly. "They only grow where people still believe and hope." Liam looked confused. He stared at the dry ground around him and wondered how anything could possibly grow there. "How can a seed know whether hope exists?" he asked. The old man smiled gently before replying, "Because hope changes the way people care for things." Then the traveler disappeared into the dusty road, leaving Liam alone with the mysterious seeds in his hands. That night, Liam could not stop thinking about the old man's words. Outside his window, the village looked lifeless under the cold moonlight. Most people would have forgotten about the seeds and accepted reality as it was. But Liam decided to try. The next morning, he planted the first seed near his small home. As the villagers passed by, many of them laughed at him. "Nothing grows here anymore," they said. "You're wasting your time." Others shook their heads with pity, believing the boy was foolish for chasing impossible dreams. But Liam said nothing. Every day, he walked a long distance to carry water back to the tiny seed. Under the burning sun, while others rested or complained, Liam quietly continued caring for the ground. Days passed, then weeks. Nothing happened. The soil remained dry and silent. There were moments when Liam himself felt doubt creeping into his heart. Sometimes he stared at the empty ground and wondered if everyone else had been right all along. But still, he continued watering the seed every single day. Because deep inside, Liam understood something important. Giving up guarantees failure, but continuing to try always leaves room for possibility. One morning, as the first sunlight touched the earth, Liam noticed something small pushing through the cracked soil. A tiny green sprout. For a moment, he could hardly believe his eyes. In a land that had seemed dead for years, life had finally returned. The villagers gathered around the small plant in complete silence. Some stared in disbelief. Others touched the green leaves as if they were witnessing a miracle. "How is this possible?" they whispered. But the truth was that the miracle had never been inside the seed itself. The real miracle was courage. The courage to continue believing when everyone else had already surrendered. As days passed, the little sprout grew stronger. And strangely, the village itself slowly began changing too. The air felt fresher. Birds returned to the sky. Small patches of grass appeared where the ground had once been empty. But the greatest change was not happening in the land. It was happening inside the people. For the first time in many years, the villagers began to feel hope again. Soon, people started asking Liam for seeds. Although he only had a few left, he shared them freely. An old woman planted one beside her home. A farmer planted another near his field. Children laughed as they buried seeds beside the dusty roads. Little by little, the village transformed. Not because of magic, but because people finally started believing that change was possible. And when people believe change is possible, they stop complaining and start building. They stop waiting for miracles and begin creating them together. The village slowly became greener with every passing season. Trees rose toward the sky. Rivers slowly returned. Flowers bloomed beside homes that once looked abandoned. Laughter filled the streets again. And people who had once lost all purpose finally found reasons to smile. But life is never free from hardship. One terrible night, a massive storm struck the village. Powerful winds tore through the young forest, and heavy rain destroyed many of the trees the villagers had worked so hard to grow. The next morning, people walked through the destruction with tears in their eyes. Broken branches covered the ground. Many trees had been completely destroyed. Some villagers collapsed in despair. "All our hard work is gone," they cried. "We should have never believed this could last." The old hopelessness began returning to their hearts. But while everyone stood frozen in sadness, Liam quietly picked up a broken tree and began planting again. A villager looked at him in disbelief. "How can you keep going after losing everything?" he asked. Liam gently pressed the young tree into the soil before answering. "Hope is not about never falling down. Hope is choosing to stand up every time we fall." Those words changed the villagers forever. At that moment, they realized true strength does not come from avoiding pain or failure. True strength comes from refusing to let pain destroy the light inside you. So the people began rebuilding together once again. Years passed. The dry village that had once been forgotten by the world became one of the most beautiful places anyone had ever seen. A great forest surrounded the land. Rivers sparkled beneath the sunlight. Children played beneath giant trees. And travelers came from distant places, just to witness what people now called the Forest of Hope. One day, a small child asked the older Liam, "How did you save the entire village?" Liam smiled peacefully as he looked at the forest around him. "I didn't save it alone," he replied. "The people saved it together. I only planted the first seed." And perhaps that is the deepest truth about life. The world does not always change because of powerful people or great miracles. Sometimes, the greatest changes begin with one small act of courage. One person choosing kindness. One person refusing to give up. One person continuing to believe when everyone else has lost faith. Because hope is like a seed. Small, fragile, easy to ignore. But when someone protects it, nurtures it, and refuses to abandon it, that tiny seed can grow into something powerful enough to change an entire world.